Tell us a little bit more about how those conversations go in terms of actually justifying mindshare, resources, budget for social. Are there certain metrics that you can point to be able to prove the value of investing time and effort into the channel?
And that is an amazing question, because that really depends on the maturity of the organization. That is a completely different conversation if somebody is just thinking about, do I need to be on Facebook, versus a UPS, right? So a UPS, what you're talking about when you're talking to an enterprise company that's already all in with social is, what's your operating model? Are you controlling everything from a central social, social department or group or center of excellence, or are you explaining from that center and distributing out? They call that a dandelion model, where you have one kind of center stock and then all these little mini stocks and then these other groups that are also empowered to work within social. If you're in a more immature, and this isn't a negative term, but if you're in a more nascent or beginner type organization and they're trying to justify maybe getting a person to spend a portion of their day doing social listening, and this is great, okay? So this is terrific. This is a company that's finally going, hey, maybe we should be listening to this stuff. Then that conversation is very different, because you're trying to justify the cost of a resource. And this is, when you're talking about a smaller company, this is a big decision than maybe at a UPS. But it's important to have those discussions, and generally you'll find that when they start, what'll happen is, and this is coming, by the way, this information is coming from an altimeter report that discusses exactly this, the structure of social business and how to allocate budget and resources to it. So Altimeter in the last quarter said, listen, what we see is people, even beginners, come in, they make a big push in budget at the beginning once they get some social successes. And then that organization swells a little bit and then contracts for like maybe 2 to 5 years, and then right sizes itself aligned to the size of the initiative and the program it's there to support. But it all depends on the maturity of the organization at the moment you're speaking to them. The measures will as well. So if I'm talking to somebody that's a beginner and they want to know, should I go on social channels, you have to find out first what conversations are happening and where are they happening. And then what does that, it could be even internal just through collaboration. And then what process or business is that supposed to be supporting, that augmenting with social? And you try and tie that to a business metric instead of to followers. Who cares how many followers you have if it's not driving business or results? So that's the conversation you're having. And then as they get more mature, they're saying, they're getting all the way down, these more mature organizations are getting all the way down to, I know if I have an advocate, a brand advocate, they're actually driving X revenue. I know if I have a social lead versus a lead generated at a trade show, it's driving at 130% of what I would get at a trade show. That kind of a very mature metric. But again, that's an evolutionary process, and it's okay to be in that nascent state and just starting with, how do I know that I can offset this $40,000 I'm putting into a person? That was a way long answer.
No, that's good.
That's good.
I mean, I've been fighting that budget battle all my life. The normally thing I've been doing, I use a thing called it's called digital measurement marketing model, and I start off from the executives. What do they care about? So I ask them. I've done that with the Marine Corps. I've done it with everybody. It's like, what are your 3 business initiatives? And then I'll break down all the digital channels with. For example, it might be, hey, I care about increasing my brand. I care about driving more sales, and I care about getting more leads. And I go in reverse. So once I get those questions answered, I don't ask, what channels you want me to use to get those. I just get those questions answered from the top level executives, and then I break it back down. I can tweet that digital measurement model for you guys, so you guys can download. And I've been using that for about 5 years, mainly to educate the executives, is they only care about those 3 main things. They don't care what platform you're using. So if you can quantify how you're going to meet those goals in reverse. So I work in reverse, and I'm like, okay, so how do I measure those pieces of data? More sales, okay, increasing revenue, brand, more mentions might be as far as brand growing. So then I select KPIs for every single one of those business decisions that that executive wants. And then I go back down and actually reverse engineering all the different platforms we're either thinking of doing or actually doing, and actually segment how each one of those is affecting that top. And then I use that model to actually track how one of them is behaving, because like you said, you never know how it's going to affect your platform. Perfect example is we're a do-it-yourself. Everybody's big on Twitter, but our users 45 to 55, and Twitter is not too big for 45 to 55. So we can do everything we want on Twitter. We're only going to find some advocates. So you really have to look at your organization and reverse engineering that way. Start with what your executives care about, and then test every single thing. And you get your money. If you reach the goals that they want, those top line ones, here's a checkbook. I've never had an issue with that once you kind of can show it to them that way.
I'll give one more question, and we want to be able to give the audience a chance to be able to chime in. About 5 years ago, as the customer experience world was gaining a lot more traction, there was this whole emergence of the chief customer officer, assigning responsibility for a challenge that the companies want to be able to go after. With the channel on social, what does the areas of responsibility look like? Is there going to be somebody who owns the social channel? Is that something that's diversified across a number of people? How should that work?
So at UPS, what I've seen is definitely in the last year and a half that I've been there, that the department has blossomed in terms of the social media channels. So there's a UPS Facebook page, there's UPS Jobs Facebook page, so we definitely have a lot. And so of different social media platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, but they're all coming together. And again, such a big enterprise. We have a social media team that deals with the external folks, so the customers, but then we also have on the internal side, we have someone who manages we have what employees at UPS are called UPSers. So we have at UPSers, which is our Twitter handle, and it's specifically for employees. So if you just look at the different numbers, on the at UPS, we've got 45,000 followers, but the internal one, we have 3,400. But we just launched that last year. So, in terms of, I was thinking about the metrics question and budget and social, it's all very organic, and it's developing every day. So we have a social media team that specifically focuses on those channels and manages it. We have someone who manages YouTube. So it's a very robust team that does that, but there's a lot of overlap because we're still pioneering, trying to figure out what is the best way to connect with folks. Does it make sense when Roger's talking about the demographics? Does it make sense if your customer, if you're going after a particular segment, are they going to be on Twitter? Are they going to be on LinkedIn? Are they going to be on Pinterest? So trying to figure all of that out is something that's an everyday event at UPS, and really looking at, when you think about, I think one of the important things is the content. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday and talked about when you look at Twitter or Facebook, you really look at, you're either a distributor or you are a content provider. So you're either redistributing other information from other folks, or you're actually creating content, and that's authentic, that's connecting with folks. And it's interesting to see, our internal stories and how they go externally with our drivers, who are, every day they're saving lives, pulling people out of cars, and giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to dogs. That actually happen. So they do a lot of fantastic things, and it's just interesting to watch how an internal story put on an external channel just kind of blows up, and you never know what's going to happen with these stories. But so it's really interesting. So we have to have, again, because of such a large enterprise, we have to have a whole team dedicated to this effort. And again, all of this is really accelerated by what happened with FedEx and saying, what, we really have to be more cognizant of what's happening, and we really need to be more out there and capitalizing on our employees, as well as the opportunity out there to build our brand and our customer base.
The thing I want to add to what she said, that's another way as far as getting budget, is not how much money it can make, how much money it's going to cost you. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure UPS use that as a, hey, if you don't do this, your competitor is either going to take this away from you, or you will lose these amount of customers. So that's the other negative, is not just generating money is not losing something falling out of your pockets. Different executives deal with, care about two things differently. I've seen changes. Initially, it seems like ages ago, 7, 8 years ago, it was owned by the PR team. But as it's evolved, for me having to, take those toys away from a different side to a different one. No, you know what? It's evolved. Now it's being involved into the inbound team, because now social is big with SEO. They're in hand, which is the inbound team handles SEO, search engine optimization, for you guys don't know, and you guys probably do know, because probably 40 to 50% of your traffic is from organic traffic. But now they're both intertwined. So they're both of their fates are together. So now I'm making, at least from my side, I'm making them both understand their roles, and sometimes doing both, because now it's more about content rather than the exact message. So they're on the same boat. It's affecting how each one does. I came back from a SEO conference last week in which all these SEOers with tricks were told, you got to make friends with the marketing people and the social people now, because their faith is part of your faith from now on. No longer about tactics, more strategy. So that's one big thing that's going to be evolving, and in the next year and a half is going to even be more.
I wanted to just say it's ROI. The metric you were just talking about is ROI. It's the risk of ignoring.
Nope, I like that one.
Right.
Yeah, so I didn't come up with that. I'll give you that. I didn't come up with that, but it is. It's a risk of ignoring. And then, that's all I wanted to add on that, just ROI.